Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we are going to be comparing Sunday and Fugue's value and essentially helping you out on which character may actually be better for you and your account. Before we get into today's video, I would love to know which team you've been having the most fun with, just your favorite to play recently. And if you enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. To start today's video, I thought we can go over each character, just get a better idea of each of their kits with these character overviews I made. So starting off with Sunday, he is an imaginary Harmony character who heavily focuses on hyper buffing an ally on the team, and he, as a result, is a very excellent option for the hyper carry playstyle or just being able to highly amplify the damage that a character on your team is able to do. When it comes to Sunday's kit benefits, some benefits that he has would include that he can 100% advance forward with his skill for an ally as well as their summon. So for any character that has a summon in their kit, you'll be able to advance them forward with his skill as well as their summon, which allows you now to attack more frequently with that character's summon. In the case of Jingyuan, this is really good because Lightning Lord is now attacking more often. If you actually want to try this out with Topaz, this actually works out pretty nicely as well, which I actually recently showcased Sunday and Topaz, and Numbi was just able to keep attacking non-stop. And then when it comes to Lingsha, if you are going to use Sunday's skill in Lingsha, now Fuyuin will attack more frequently. And when it comes to the future, when it comes to just characters that do have summons in their kit, I have mentioned this a couple times now in the past, but they did mention in the 2.7 livestream that Remembrance characters will have a summon in their kit. So as a result, Sunday will be able to push forward that character as well as their summon very frequently within a fight. And on top of that, if you were to use Sunday's skill on an ally, he will also give them a damage boost, which this damage boost is only 30% if the character does not have a summon, but if the character does have a summon in their kit, for example, from our current roster, that would be Topaz, Lingsha, and then Jingyuan, then they'll have an additional 50% damage boost, so a total of 80%, which is absolutely huge. That's definitely going to help out when it comes to amplifying their damage output, and this damage boost will also last for 2 turns, which is really nice that it lasts for 2 turns since it will also guarantee that their summon will be able to take advantage of that damage boost as well. Now, when it comes to Sunday's ultimate, he will regenerate 20% of an ally's maximum energy or a minimum of 40 energy if their maximum energy that they would get from the 20% isn't 40. So let's say the ally had a lower energy cost and this 20% would not equate to 40 otherwise. One of his traces will actually allow it to be a minimum of 40, so that's great. And they'll also be granted massive crit damage buffs, which is 30% of Sunday's crit damage. Him being able to give more energy to an ally can work with numerous DPS characters. And when it comes to characters that have high energy costs, this will actually make Sunday a pretty nice option for them. So currently, I believe the highest in game is Yunli's at 240, and with Sunday's ultimate, if I'm not mistaken, he should give roughly around 48 energy back to her. So that's great, and if we ever go higher than that, energy cost wise, Sunday will definitely be able to help out with just granting that ally more energy to be able to allow them to use their ultimate more frequently. And I think the minimum 40 energy is also really good just for this utility, for once again, those characters that have lower energy costs, they can still take advantage of this to ultimate more frequently. As the 20% on a lower energy cost may not feel like too much energy is being given back, but when there is a minimum of 40 and let's say your energy cost is only 110, that definitely makes a huge difference on how frequently you are able to use your ultimate. So overall, his ultimate just has incredible utility for numerous characters, as I've mentioned, or numerous types of teams you can possibly experiment with, which once we get into the team section of this video, just for comparisons, I'll definitely show you guys a couple synergies. Another perk that Sunday has though is that he's also able to increase an ally's crit rate by 20% after using his skill on them. And this will also last for 3 turns. So this is essentially a permanent crit rate buff throughout the entire fight. And this definitely helps out when it comes to just building your characters in general. Being able to give them a free 20% crit rate is honestly huge. When he does use his skill, he can also dispel a debuff from an ally. So if they were inflicted with crowd control debuff, he can help out with this. Being able to dispel a debuff from an ally after using your skill on them is definitely handy. And then also he's going to be able to recover skill points after using his skill on the Beatified. After he uses his ultimate and they become the Beatified, now when he uses his skill on them, you will be able to recover a skill point. So this is really handy just for being able to help with the skill point management of the team. Overall, when it comes to Sunday's kit and his potential, I believe that he has very nice potential. Will also be really good when it comes to those remembrance DPS characters, especially if, let's say, they have a higher energy cost or whatever it may be. He will be able to provide very nice buffs for them when it comes to the crit rate, crit damage, and then of course a damage boost. So when it comes to Sunday's utility, while he is going to be really good for those future summon characters, he still is a very strong option for our current roster of characters, which once again, I'll go over this in a bit. For example, with his ultimate being able to give more energy to an ally, this can help with characters like Yeonli. If you decide to use a team like Tingyun, Sunday, and then Hua, for example, you essentially have an energy party team where Tingyun is able to give energy, Sunday is able to give energy, and then Hua is also able to give energy for the team. So that's a really strong team comp you can actually consider using, especially because Tingyun is actually on Sunday's banner as well, which provides you an opportunity now to get her if you haven't already, or if you do already have her, now you can try to get some Eidolon. His ultimate can of course be handy for characters like Argenti, just being able to use your ultimate more often. And overall, there is just quite a lot of utility that he can provide, especially because his kit just provides very nice buffs for crit-based DPSs overall. Now that we've gone over Sunday's kit, let's actually go over Fugue's. Fugue is going to be a Fire Nihility character who is our second Super Break team enabler aside from Harmony Trailblazer. And for her to activate it, it would just primarily have to be when she is just on the field. Then whenever allies attack weakness broken enemies, then it'll convert the toughness reduction of that attack into an instance of Super Break. So this is definitely nice for just Super Break teams in general, for us now to have a second enabler. And when it comes to her kit benefits, Fugue will allow for Super Break as well as Exo Toughness from her being on the field, and this is through her talent. So when it comes to Exo Toughness, what's really nice about this in particular is that it will allow you to essentially break an enemy twice, which numerous characters can take advantage of this. I'd love to use the example of Himeko. Himeko is now going to be able to get more charges for her follow-up attacks, so that's going to be highly beneficial for a character like Himeko to take advantage of. Rappa is going to be able to get more charges through her talent, as whenever an enemy is weakness broken, she will gain a point of charge up to 10. This can be beneficial for Boothill being able to quickly get his pocket trick shot stacks. Whatever it may be, overall, this Exo Toughness mechanic is just very nice for characters who highly take advantage of breaking enemies potentially numerous times, or taking advantage of reducing toughness meters in general within their skill kits. Now when it comes to Fugue's skill, she will allow an ally to actually ignore enemy weakness, which is through the Foxian prayer buff that she does have. And also her buff will last for 3 turns based off of her turn. So Fugue allowing an ally to ignore enemy weakness is great. This will now allow your ally to be able to break any enemy that they are facing. For example, let's say enemies weren't fire weak, but once again you wanted to use Himeko still. Well, if you use Fugue's skill on Himeko, then what this allows is now Himeko can break these enemies regardless if they are fire weak or not. So this skill overall just provides quite a lot of utility when it comes to Boothill. If he hasn't quite yet used his ultimate to implant physical weakness on an enemy, well, no problem, Fugue's skill will come in handy for this, as now Boothill will be able to reduce that enemy's toughness regardless of what they are weak to, even prior to him implanting them with physical weakness. An additional perk from Fugue's skill is that any ally with the Foxian prayer buff will also have a chance to reduce enemies' defense. So what's really nice about this is that you're just able now to inflict an additional debuff onto enemies, reduce their defense, which will now improve the damage output of the team. And I'll get into some pretty fun team synergies that you can actually consider when it comes to reducing enemy defenses. Aside from her skill, when she does use it on an ally, she'll also get an enhanced basic attack, and this enhanced basic attack just allows her to attack an enemy as well as adjacents next to them. And lastly, for her ultimate, she will reduce all enemies' weakness type regardless of what they are weak to. This is really great for Fugue being able to help assist with breaking enemies that you are facing, as her skill, of course, as I mentioned, will allow an ally to reduce the toughness meters of an enemy regardless of what they are weak to. But now with her ultimate, now she will be able to reduce their toughness meter regardless of what they are weak to. Also, I just realized on my character overview, I wrote that Fugue's ultimate reduces all enemies' weakness type. I meant to put toughness meter regardless of their weakness type, so that was actually my bad. Let me just fix that real quick. Okay, there we go. Now it says toughness meter. My bad, guys. But yeah, so overall, when it comes to Fugue's potential, she will be really handy when it comes to, of course, your super break teams. We are about to get Remembrance Trailblazer, and in Memory of Chaos, you can't use Harmony Trailblazer and Remembrance Trailblazer, unfortunately, so you are going to have to pick one. And if you decide to end up using Remembrance Trailblazer instead of Harmony Trailblazer primarily in the endgame modes, then Fugue can come in really handy for allowing you to still, of course, take advantage of super breaks, take advantage of super break teams, as well as, of course, provide these additional benefits that she does have. You could actually consider using 2 super break teams now, Fugue on one side, Harmony Trailblazer on one side, or if you don't have Ruan Mei, you could potentially consider using Fugue and Harmony Trailblazer together just for the double super breaks. So there's definitely options that you can mess around with when it comes to Fugue, but now that we've gone over both characters' overview essentially of their kit provides, I thought we could go over just teams in general that both of these characters will be very, very nice for, and just their overall utility to help make the decision of which character seems to be better for your account. So here we are with Fugue and then Sunday, and they will now be doing a boxing match to determine which one is the better support for you for your account. So starting off with Fugue, I thought we could just put some characters here in these little boxes, but as I mentioned, she will be very, very useful when it comes to our super break teams. So because of that, we can just start off by making a break team real quick. Here we have Ruan Mei. If you don't have Ruan Mei, by the way, you can use an alternative support. Let's say you had a character like Pela, you can slot in Pela, for example. Ruan Mei will just be very, very nice though because of the additional weakness breaking efficiency she provides. She will give additional break, the old type res pen, the speed, and so on. So Ruan Mei definitely has a lot of buffs that are just very handy when it comes to break teams in general. You can, of course, consider Harmony Trailblazer and Fugue together, as now you will have double super breaks. The super break from Harmony Trailblazer, and then of course a super break from Fugue. So that can also be a potential that you can consider. And then when it comes to your last slot, now if you want to go as a saneless team, you would more than likely be looking at Fugue, Harmony Trailblazer, and then Ruan Mei, as they have delays in their kit, so this will make it very, very handy for being able to delay the enemies from recovering their toughness meter, which now means you can inflict many instances of super break before they even potentially recover their toughness meter. And even if they do, honestly, they might already be dead at that point. So this core can be very powerful when it comes to making a sustainless super break team, which if you were curious about what type of DPS characters you may be looking at, you would primarily be looking at a lot of our break damage healers. For example, we have Rappa. You can use her in this slot, as this is a sustainless comp you can consider. And once again, Fugue will still be pretty handy for Rappa in general, just because of the exo toughness. Rappa will be able to nicely take advantage of this. So Rappa, of course, will be a consideration, and if you do decide to do a sustain team, you could end up using a sustain like Lingsha, or you could end up, of course, using a sustain like Gallagher. What's really nice is that Gallagher is actually going to be on Fugue's banner. So keeping that in mind, if you don't have a Gallagher so far, this is a very nice opportunity to actually pick him up, as he will be on Fugue's banner. And if you don't have some of his Eidolons, now this is an opportunity to potentially get those as well. When it comes to Fugue in general, a lot of her break-oriented teams will be very similar. You'll likely see either Harmony Trailblazer with her, or you will be looking at Ruan Mei. And then if you decide to go sustain route, you would be looking at Gallagher or Lingsha. Of course, you can use other sustains as well, but I would say to primarily consider Gallagher or Lingsha, and then you would, of course, pick your main damage healer. which as I showed, for example, we had Rappa. We can use a character like Boothill, of course. You can use a character like Firefly. She will be a nice option as well. And what's really cool about Firefly in particular is that since she actually implants enemies with fire weakness, why this is really nice is that since Fugue is also fire and then Lingsha / Gallagher are also fire characters, all three of these characters here will all be able to contribute towards breaking an enemy. So this makes it really nice for the fact that they are all fire characters. And of course, Firefly does have her fire implant. If you want, you can of course use Ruan Mei as I was just showing you guys. You can also consider using the double super breaks when it comes to using Harmony Trailblazer and Fugue. That is also an option. As I mentioned earlier, Himeko will nicely be able to benefit from Fugue, as Fugue will now allow Himeko to reduce the toughness meters regardless of what they are weak to. So if they weren't fire weak, Himeko will still be able to reduce their toughness meters. And of course, if you have a character like Ruan Mei on the team, now this means more weakness breaking efficiency, which means Himeko will be able to break enemies faster. And this can mean that she's going to be able to unleash her follow-ups very quickly into a fight. If you do have a character like Gallagher, he can also help out if the enemies were hypothetically fire weak, or of course a character like Lingsha. Both will be really nice options. But for Himeko in general, this is just going to be a really nice synergy, as once again, Fugue also enables exo toughness onto enemies, which now means that Himeko is going to be able to take advantage of getting more charges from enemies being broken. And even if Himeko isn't the one that breaks the enemy, let's say it was Gallagher, or if it was Fugue, whatever it may be, Himeko will still be able to gain those charges and then just keep unleashing frequent follow-up attacks back to back. So this will be a great synergy overall that I'm definitely going to experiment with. Once I'm able to showcase Fugue, I will definitely make sure to showcase Himeko and her, as I am honestly the most excited to experiment with this synergy right here, just because of all the benefits that Fugue is going to be able to provide Himeko here. When it comes to Shrei in general, she can potentially also take advantage of just Fugue's kit in general, as Shrei can take advantage of, once again, the exo toughness. The exo toughness in general is just really nice for characters that take advantage of, once again, breaking enemies numerous times, or being able to take advantage of enemies having toughness meters to be able to break. Which in the case of Shrei, she can potentially take advantage of this, so I definitely want to experiment with Shrei and Fugue as well. And in the case of Shrei, you can consider doing a more hybrid team. Funnily enough, I think that Sunday and Fugue together can actually make some pretty interesting teams. For example, if you are considering Boothill, Boothill can definitely take advantage of Sunday here, and if you have Fugue on the team, she also provides very nice benefits. So there's actually cases where both of these characters on the same team can actually work very nicely. In the case of Shrei, this will definitely be experimental, as I would have to experiment with it first, but I can definitely see a potential synergy between her and Fugue if you are a fan of Shrei. And of course, Shrei can also take advantage of Sunday as well, as he will provide her a huge amount of crit damage. He'll provide her crit rate, so he'll be pretty nice for her as well. Now, while I have gone over the super break teams, you may be wondering, what is Fugue's value outside of that? Does she have much value outside of that? Or is she just primarily for super break teams? So there is a specific synergy I actually wanted to go over before we move on to Sunday, but the synergy I wanted to show is actually when it comes to using Acheron. Keeping in mind that Fugue is Nihility, if you are using, of course, an E0 Acheron, then she will help out with assisting with Acheron wanting to Nihility allies at E0. And when it comes to the Jiaocho slot, if you do not have Jiaocho, you can consider a character like Pela. That's perfectly fine. But what the idea here is with Fugue and Acheron. So as I mentioned earlier, when a character has the Foxian Prayer buff, this allows them now to reduce enemy defenses when they attack them. This attack can be their basic attack, their follow-up attack, whatever it may be. They now have that chance to reduce enemy defenses. So what you would actually end up doing here is you would use Fugue's skill on your sustain character on the team. So now when your sustain does their basic attack, or even in the case of Aventurine with his follow-up attack, he will now be able to debuff enemies with that basic and as well as that follow-up. And with how frequently Aventurine can unleash a follow-up attack, this can be a very strong way to potentially get more and more stacks here for Acheron, so she can unleash her ultimate more frequently. If I were to have to, I guess, recommend a top 3, I would primarily be looking at Aventurine, just because he has the basic attacks as well as the follow-ups, and then he also can inflict the unnerved debuff with his ultimate. And in the case of Gallagher and Lingsha, Since Fugue is able to enable super breaks just by her being on the team, as well as of course the exo toughness, Gallagher and Lingsha can nicely take advantage of this just to deal a strong amount of super break damage onto enemies, which will additionally just help the team's damage output, as now you have a nice secondary form of damage output alongside Acheron. Then you can consider, of course, as I said, Gallagher or Lingsha for that, as they can nicely take advantage of the super breaks. In the case of Fugue and Acheron, there is indeed a synergy right there, and I'll make sure to experiment with it and release a video showcasing this for you guys. But the synergy is definitely there just for being able to enable a character on your team to now debuff enemies, which will now grant Acheron more sex for her ultimate, and of course, because they are defense reduction debuffs, this will also improve the damage output of the team. So that'll definitely be a very nice synergy right there. So I would say aside from super breaks, you can also consider using her with Acheron. I'm sure there will be more and more synergies as we get closer to her release and we are able to actually test her out more. So I'll definitely be sure to experiment more with her. But she definitely has very, very nice utility as a supportive character, especially for those that do care about their super break teams or want to experiment with this very, very fun Acheron team. Now, if you're wondering in the case of pulling Fugue strictly for Acheron, I would say to primarily be looking at her if you are, of course, playing your super break teams. As in Fugue's slot, if you don't want to use Fugue, you can of course consider a character like Pela. I wouldn't say it's necessary to pull Fugue strictly for Acheron teams, as you can of course use alternative Nihility characters. But in the case of you're already interested in super break teams, you already play them, and of course if you have Acheron as well, you can take advantage of Fugue very nicely for both of those teams. So now when it comes to Sunday, what are Sunday's team synergies? So I have actually showcased quite a few of them already on my channel, which would of course include a character like Jing Yuan. You can consider Topaz, you can consider Jing Liu, you can consider Yun Li, Argenti. There is a lot of synergies that Sunday has. So while I'm not going to show every single one here, I'm just going to mainly verbally say them and just give you the team examples. When it comes to Sunday and Jing Yuan, for example, you will primarily be looking at Sunday, then Jing Yuan alongside another supportive character. I have seen some actually say they enjoy using Topaz in the slot just because of the proof of debt. Lightning Lord can take advantage of this. If you did want to go the dual DPS route, you can, but in a lot of scenarios, most people will likely be looking at Sunday as a hyper carry option. So because of that, you will be primarily hyper amplifying your damage dealer choice. In this scenario, Jing Yuan. So now if we were to look for a secondary support, Robin would be a very, very nice option just in general as a secondary support to use along Sunday. They both will provide amazing buffs for highly amplifying your main damage dealer's damage output. And then for your sustain, one of the best sustains to use alongside Sunday at the moment would actually be Huohuo. So the reason why Huohuo is so good, let's say in the case you do use Robin on the team, Robin does have a pretty big energy cost herself, but just for this team example, the reason why Huohuo is really good is she's just able to provide nice healing for the team, and of course the additional energy she provides is just very handy for whoever your main damage dealer is. Now they're getting energy from Huohuo as well as Sunday. So this is very nice for just more ultimate usage, and of course, Huohuo being able to provide team-wide energy, he also now will be giving Robin back some energy as well, which means you'll be able to take advantage of Robin's ultimate more frequently. So let's say she gets out of her ultimate state, thanks to Huohuo, she'll be able to help Robin get her ultimate sooner. So Huohuo definitely is one of the best sustain options you can consider. But of course, if you do not have her, while there isn't exactly a full-on substitute, what you can potentially consider is using a sustain character that can have frequent turns. So in the case of Gallagher, when he uses ultimate, he is able to immediately attack again. So in the case of Gallagher, what you could end up doing is of course his basic attack and then his ultimate. Now you're right back up with his enhanced basic attack. And this, if you do have Quid Pro Quo equipped, this can be a nice way for helping the team regenerate energy as well, especially with how frequently Gallagher can get turns. So that can definitely be an option if you do not have Huohuo, but I would personally recommend her the most. But of course, once again, if you don't have her, I would probably then try to look at a sustain that can have frequent turns so that they're able to take advantage of Quid Pro Quo. Another cool thing though, when it comes to the sustains, is actually Fu Xuan. The reason I say Fu Xuan is that she will give 12% crit rate and Sunday will actually give 20%. So because of that, now your damage dealer of choice will have an additional 32% crit rate if you were looking to, of course, even further amplify the main damage dealer's crit rate overall. I did mention Yunli earlier in this video, but when it comes to Yunli, he is also a very nice option you can consider, especially since Sunday will, of course, give her a nice amount of energy. If you do have Huahua on the team, this will be even nicer because now Yunli will get even more energy. And of course, you can use Robin, but a substitute I've been experimenting with when it comes to Robin is, of course, the Energy Party team, which primarily consists of taking advantage of Tingyun, as now you have 3 energy boosters on the team. You have Huahua, you have Sunday, and then you have Tingyun. And as I mentioned, since Tingyun is on Sunday's banner, if you don't already have her, this is a nice opportunity to get her. And if you do already have her but don't have her maxed out on her Eidolons, this is an opportunity to, of course, get those Eidolons as well. So this is a very fun team that you can take advantage of. Of course, in Yunli's slot, you can use a character such as Argenti. I have actually seen people use Sunday and Dongheng Imbibitor Lune together. In the case of, I have seen it with primarily E2 Dongheng Imbibitor Lune. But if you guys have experimented with it with E0, do let me know in the comments down below how that went as well. I would love to know. But that could be a potential synergy as well, as Imbibitor Lune will be able to take advantage of the additional crit rate, the additional crit damage, and then of course him getting more turns means he'll be able to inflict more frequent cases of damage output onto enemies. So that could definitely be a consideration. The only thing you'd have to keep in mind, of course, is your skill point usage of the team. I have also shown off Jingliu. Jingliu can nicely take advantage of Sunday's buffs, Tingyun, and then Huahua as well. Of course, if you want to replace Tingyun in the case of Robin, you could do so. You would just primarily have to look into who your secondary supportive character would be for your hypercarry oriented teams with Sunday. You can use a character like Pela. If you do have Ruan Mei available, you can use her just for the buffs that she provides. So there's definitely numerous options if you don't have Robin or if you don't feel like using Tingyun. And of course, since Robin has a 100% advance forward, this allows your team now to act again. And since Sunday is able to advance forward whoever your main damage dealer is, they'll be able to get very frequent turns and be able to unleash a bunch of instances of damage onto enemies. So when it comes to Sunday in general, when it comes to his value, I would say he has a lot of versatility with who you can be used with, as majority of crit-based damage dealers can take advantage of him. Teams that would benefit from Bronya can of course benefit from Sunday. I have seen some actually use Sunday and Acheron together just because of the fact that he's able to provide the damage boost as well as, of course, provide the 100% advance forward. This means now Acheron will be able to attack more frequently and be able to, of course, get her stacks to unleash her ultimate since now she is attacking more frequently. And also, while Acheron can't take advantage of the energy that is provided through Sunday's ultimate, she can definitely take advantage of that crit damage. So if you want to get your Acheron to as close to as possible to 100% crit rate, as well as having a bunch of crit damage, Sunday can definitely help out with this. The only unfortunate thing though is, of course, she can't take advantage of the energy. But in general, I have definitely seen some people experiment with Sunday and Acheron, and it did actually work out pretty decently for just being able to unleash frequent damage output onto enemies, being able to get frequent stacks for her ultimate as she will be attacking more frequently now, and so on. Before we wrap up today's video, one key thing I do want to mention when it comes to Sunday as well is, once again, as I mentioned early in this video about how he provides a massive damage boost for summon-based characters, and I mentioned how in the 2.7 livestream how they revealed that Remembrance characters will have summons. Aglaea is a Remembrance Lightning character, and because of that, she will be able to highly take advantage of that damage boost from Sunday, as well as the additional benefits that Sunday could provide. For example, the energy, the crit damage, whatever it may be. When it comes to Sunday in particular, he will be very, very useful for future Remembrance characters that are DPS based, as well as take advantage of crit stats, because of the fact that he will be able to advance forward not only that character as well as their summon, and also provide the massive damage boost, crit damage boost, and so on. So when it comes to future potential, especially even when it comes to just Aglaea, who is going to be in 3.0, there's more than likely going to be a very, very strong synergy between the two. So when it comes to Sunday's future potential, when it comes to the new Remembrance characters that are coming up, the summon-based meta, if you will, he more than likely will be a very, very strong option to use on those types of team comps. So because of that, Sunday does have very nice future value. And even once again, his value right now is still very good for being able to highly amplify a character's damage output, being able to provide them a bunch of crit damage, the crit rate, the energy, whatever it may be. He just has very nice kit benefits overall. And of course, knowing that the summon-oriented characters, or rather the remembrance characters, are coming very soon, Sunday is a very, very powerful option just for that archetype in general. So because of that, I would say Sunday has a bunch of future value that does need to be considered when it comes to the remembrance path on what he can provide for them. So I definitely thought I'd mention that, of course, in this video as well. When it comes to making your decision, I would say to consider what we do know is coming up soon are the remembrance characters that do have summons in their kit, and Sunday will be able to highly amplify their damage output. So overall, which character provides more value? I honestly say this highly depends on your account and highly depends on if you care about the upcoming remembrance characters. For example, if you care about Aglaea, if you plan to use her, I probably would be taking a look at Sunday, considering to pick him up before he goes away, so you can end up using them together. Now, when it comes to Fugue, what she provides is still, once again, really nice utility. You can use her for a secondary break team, or you can still use her on your primary break team, especially if you do decide to make Harmony Trailblazer into primarily Remembrance Trailblazer. So Fugue will be able to provide nice utility when it comes to that, as well as, of course, you can use her alongside on an Acheron team with the synergy I mentioned. So overall, it really comes down to which character you prefer and which character you feel like would provide you more value. I would say when it comes to versatility, I personally have created more Sunday-oriented teams than Fugue teams, as Sunday can nicely benefit a lot of characters that already do exist, while Fugue you will primarily be looking at the super break-oriented teams, as well as, of course, this Acheron synergy right here. So I would definitely keep that in mind. At least that's from my personal testing. I would love to know which teams you guys have created and which characters you actually recommend the most. I would say though, when it comes to, I guess, what's coming in the future for the remembrance characters, knowing that they are summon oriented, I would personally maybe have my eye more on Sunday, but ultimately I would say to pull the character you like the most. And once again, it highly depends on what characters are on your account. If you primarily play break-oriented characters and you don't really care for the characters coming in 3.0 as much, or Aglaea in this scenario, then Fugue might be a better option for you. So I think both options overall, though, do provide a very nice amount of value that can be nice for a lot of accounts, especially if you have the characters on your account that would be able to highly take advantage of these two right here. But yeah, I think this will honestly be it for today's video. I yapped enough. I thought I'd just give my personal opinion on who I would personally keep my eye on more. But once again, both of these characters have amazing benefits. If you guys did enjoy this video though, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.